Hi, I'm Ron Campise. I was a supervisor with the crime scene investigation unit with the Los Angeles Police Department, and I'm going to relate to you a true story, Spider-Man's grandma. This story is about a young man who was living with his grandma. He was actually living there since he was a boy. And his grandma always went to bed with a 38 special in her hand and a bottle of Jack Daniels. And she told him when he was a young boy, when I go to sleep and I shut my door, don't ever open it. Otherwise I will blow your nuts off. And so this little boy living with his grandma, he remembered that. This little boy became a young man and then finally a middle-aged man. And he was looking at an infomercial and he said, you know what? I'm going to sell the house. I think grandma would like that. And so what he did, he arranged for an agent to come by. And she came by and, they're very optimistic, these agents. Just looking around, 3,000 some square feet, 4 bedrooms, master bedroom, this many baths. And so, she was impressed. And so finally, she wanted to look in the master bedroom. And it was closed. She opened the door to the master bedroom. And she saw it was dark in there. And she walked in and your eyes get used to the darkness. She looked around. The whole thing was like covered in some kind of drapery or something, and she was looking. She realized that they were spider webs. They were from ceiling to floor. It was covered in spider webs. And so was the bed. And finally she looked, and she could see there was a body in the bed. And so what she did, she walked out of the house, and she called the police. They came in. Detectives came in. The CSI people came in. The detectives were interviewing this man. And they asked him, they go, how long has your grandma been in the room? And he told them, 16 years. And they said, didn't you want to check on her? Because obviously she was dead. Got this glazes, and I said, Grandma told me when she goes to bed and closes the door to never open it, otherwise she'll blow my nuts off. And so the detectives finally entered the room. What they did immediately, they noticed the smell. It was still this musty smell and kind of a death lingering smell. And what they did, they tore the drapes off the windows. They tore them off and they opened the windows. And what they saw was all the spider webs covered in dust, covering Grandma, who was in the bed. By this time, she was a mummy. And sure enough, and in one hand was a 38 special pistol, and the other one was a bottle of Jack Daniels. Well, what happened is that they determined that this man had been collecting her pension and her checks for all these years and living on them. And they decided not to prosecute him because they knew something wasn't right about him, and that they'd never get a conviction anyway. And so what happened is that he went before a judge. They made him go to a welfare hearing, a welfare mental hearing, and he was declared incompetent to stand trial or incompetent to even, do anything. So what happened is he went to an institution. The house was sold because in Los Angeles, they're not going to leave an empty house. No matter what happened in there. That's a lesson if you want to buy a house in Los Angeles. You better find out what happened there before you do. And so what they did is they used the money for his staying in institution. And when he was in the institution, he was still muttering to this day. He would mutter under his breath, and the staff took care of him, and he'd always say, Grandma told me to never enter the room when she closes the door. Otherwise, she'll blow my nuts off. So that's our story of Spider-Man's grandma.